Mr. Savage asked you several things. Were you concerned about the fact that he stopped the car for this reason? Were you concerned about that? That he chased him? Were you concerned about him leaving his car there? Things of that nature, correct?
Yes.
And you weren't concerned about him?
No, it was not.
What were you concerned about based upon what he told you?
The facts of that led up to and during and after the shooting.
Because what he told you wasn't what was on that video, was it?
No, it was not.
Because what he told you was that they were in close proximity and he shot him in close proximity.
Yes, that was indicated.
He didn't tell you that Mr. Scott was 17 feet away from him when he fired the first shot, did he?
No, he did not.
He didn't tell you that he knew that Mr. Scott was unarmed because when he was grabbing Mr. Scott's right hand with his left hand, Mr. Scott's right hand had nothing in it, did it?
He did not.
He knew Mr. Scott didn't have a taser because he kicked the taser behind him, didn't he?
The taser goes behind him. It's unclear to me exactly how that occurred.
And the first thing he does after he cuffs him is he goes back there and gets the taser from where it was behind him, correct?
Correct.
And it wasn't where he told you it was it?
No, it was not.
Because he told you it was between him and the dead body, correct?
Correct.
Because that was to Mr. Slager's benefit. Correct?
Correct.
And he says he picked up the taser and put it in his holster. Is that correct?
It's not the sequence of events. It's not the entire sequence of events. No. He eventually puts it in his holster, but it's not what he does.
I'm telling you what he told you in his statement.
He does state that, yes.
He said he picked the taser up and put it in his holster, correct?
Yes.
Did he tell you he dropped it by the body in between?
No, he did not. Before he had checked his pulse.
Did he tell you anything about Mr. Scott having drugs?
No.
Did he say anything about Mr. Scott throwing drugs down?
No. And I had asked him specifically about marijuana during the stop, and he indicated there was no indication.
Did he say anything about Mr. Scott having a weapon?
No.
Did he ever say anything about Mr. Scott having a weapon?
With the exception of him claiming that Mr. Scott had possession of his taser, no.
He never indicated there was any thought in his mind that Mr. Scott may have had a firearm, did he?
Sorry, one more?
He never said that there was any concern on his part that Mr. Scott may have had a firearm.
No.
He certainly never told you that Mr. Scott was running to hide to pull out a gun and shoot him, did he?
No, he did not.
And as a police officer, are you trained to kill somebody because you haven't had an opportunity to prison?
No, you were not.
Did he ever tell you anything about him having been tased by Mr. Scott?
No.
Did he indicate anything other during this interview other than he believed he was in danger from Mr. Scott?
No.
And did he appear, you said you saw the video, did he appear to be in danger at the time he shot Mr. Scott?
He did not.
And during this Donnybrook, as Mr. Savage described it,
Did he ever, during this hour and 40 minutes, told you that Mr. Scott had ever done anything to him except push him once to the chest to try to get him off of it?
No.
Did he ever say that Mr. Scott had punched him?
No.
Did he ever say that Mr. Scott had kicked him?
No.
Did he ever say that Mr. Scott had scratched him?
No.
Did he ever say that Mr. Scott had made some sort of derogatory term of comment about cops?
No.